The official clock.
Official clock. I feel like I'm in wrestling season.
Slow.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Here.
Mr. Franco.
I'm here.
Mr. Cabrera.
here. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the notice requirements have been satisfied as to the time, place, and date of holding said meeting by posting notice on the bulletin board here in Borough Hall and by mailing and emailing same to the Herald of Cape May County and the Press of Atlantic City on October 13th, 2021. In the event of an emergency, your emergency exit is your back right or your front left or our front right. Quick reminder, this meeting is being shown live here on Wildwood Crest YouTube page and also on the Facebook Live page, of the Borough. In the event you want to call in and ask a question, if you're not here in person, you can dial in by dialing the conference line at 888-363-4734. And when prompted, you're going to enter the access code 9699020, followed by the pound or the hashtag. In the event you watch the recorded version of this meeting and you have questions you would like to ask, you're welcome to email Trish Faketics at clerk@wildwoodcrest.org or call 609-729-8040. We have 3 ordinances on the agenda for this evening. Madam Clerk, take it from here.
Yes, sir. The first, Ordinance 1377 must be tabled due to a publication error. So we have Ordinance 1378, and it is for electric vehicles.
Motion that ordinance number 1378 be placed on second reading and final passage by title only.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1378 be placed on second and final reading by title only.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Ordinance 1378 reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, amending and supplementing Article 14, exceptions and supplemental regulations of the Land Development Ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, permitting electric vehicle charging stations and equipment as an accessory use in all zoning districts in the Borough of Wildwood Crest.
Motion that a public hearing now be held on ordinance number 1378.
Second that?
It has been moved and seconded that a public hearing on ordinance number 1378 now be held.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Floor is open for public comments on ordinance number 1378, electric vehicle charging stations. Anyone on the conference line have any questions or comments on ordinance number 1378? Hearing none?
Motion that public hearing on ordinance number 1378 now be closed.
Second that motion?
It has been moved and seconded that the public hearing on ordinance number 1378 now be closed.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that ordinance number 1378 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1378 be passed on second and final reading and advertised according to law.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have Ordinance 1379, and it reads as follows. An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 47A, Parks, of the Code of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, prohibiting the use of fireworks in public parks.
Motion that ordinance number 1379 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for a second and final reading and public hearing on April 13th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Second it?
It has been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1379 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on April 13th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have Ordinance 1380, and it reads as follows. An ordinance of the Borough of Wildwood Crest, amending and supplementing Chapter 73, taxi cabs regarding the licensing and regulation of jitneys in the Borough of Wildwood Crest.
Motion that ordinance number 1380 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on April 13th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Motion. Second.
It's been moved
Thank
it's been moved and seconded that ordinance number 1380 be passed on first reading, advertised according to law, be brought up for second and final reading and public hearing on April 13th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next, we have the resolutions. The first is authorizing calendar year 2022 municipal budget be read by title only, and that a public hearing be held on the calendar year 2022 municipal budget.
Motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce
Yes.
Mr. Garcia?
Go ahead. With us tonight, we have Mike Garcia from the accounting firm Fort Scott Kennedy, Fort Scott, excuse me. And Associates. I forgot we dropped the Kennedy. And nonetheless, Mike Garcia is here to give us an overview on Wildwood Crest's 2022 budget. Take it away from here, Mike.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this working?
Is that live? Did you hit the button? It is working. You're on.
All right. All right, thanks, Mayor. The budget for tonight, first of all, has been through state review. As you're probably aware, 1 out of every 3 years, every municipality is required to have their budget reviewed by the state. It has been reviewed and accepted and cleared for adoption tonight if the commission chooses to do so. As we are subject to every year, the budget is subject to spending caps of 3.5%. This budget is $646,000 below the spending cap. We are also subject to the 2% tax levy cap. We are $1.1 million below the 2% tax levy cap. Overall spending in the budget, net of grants, is increasing by about $845,000. $150,000 of that is additional capital expenses and pay-as-you-go debt. So that's a good thing. You're spending more on paying down debt rather than borrowing. So that leaves about $695,000, of which about $600,000 are salary increases, the majority of which are contractual. So then we're looking at the rest of the budget. Every other single line item is increasing by under $100,000 when you look at everything else collectively. Surplus condition, we are applying $3.7 million of surplus to this budget to balance it. That's an increase of $300,000 compared to last year. Last year we used $3.4 million to balance the budget. We are in a very strong surplus condition. We ended the year 2021 with $10.4 million in surplus. So even after using the 3.7, that still leaves us with $6.7 million of surplus, of which we assume we will regenerate all back this year so that we're in a similar position next year in order to be able to use a similar amount of surplus to balance the 2023 budget. There is a slight increase in the local purpose tax rate, 0.6 cents. That amounts to $6 per year on $100,000 worth of assessment, or $27 a year on your average assessment here. Your average assessment is $450,000. So this the 0.6 cents would equate to $27 per year on the $450,000 assessment. Those are the highlights, Mayor. And Francine, if there was anything you wanted to add before it's open to the public?
Well, I think he did a great job summarizing our budget for 2022. Any questions from the public?
Okay, we have to make a motion to.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, I didn't.
Go ahead.
Zane McWilliams, 8107, New Jersey. Can you come to the total list,
Total budget?
Yes.
please?
Sure. The total budget is $26,378,698.32.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
May I back in the fall at a meeting, we were doing some type of salary wage review on the island, okay? Have the results of that been incorporated into the salary increases that are going forward? And I'll say flat out, I have no objection to what I heard today about salary increases. So it's just more, are we making sure we're competitive with the island, with other islands? Because I know we were doing that back in the fall.
Do you want me to take that?
The answer is yes, but Francine, go right ahead.
Yes, we did conduct that, that survey, which we did get some results, and we're currently making adjustments. We just had the salary ordinance on for final adoption so that we could make those moves after that is fully been, once that's adopted, by the commissioners. And then we're gonna make some moves coming up this month, actually, to bring some staff members up and give them title. We also did a title, audit as well. So that will be incorporated in this budget, and those increases will start coming up shortly.
Good,
Very
happy for them, happy for the staff,
Yeah.
and all the borough employees.
Okay. Anybody else? Public comments on the budget, 2022. Anybody on the conference line have any questions on the 2022 budget for Mr. Garcia or Mrs. Springer? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to adopt the budget.
A motion.
Second that?
Yeah, we can go back up there. It's been moved and seconded that the public hearing on the calendar year 2022 municipal budget now be closed. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
All right, next we have authorizing adoption of the calendar year 2022 municipal budget, inclusive of $16,161,864.59 for municipal purposes be adopted.
Make the motion.
Second?
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of professional services contract for special counsel for general legal services pertaining to public utility law at the not to exceed sum of $5,000.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the Borough of Wildwood Crest to enter into New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance number CK04.
Make the motion.
Second it?
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer work order for Beach Patrol Headquarters renovations, design development, preparation of construction documents, bidding and award, and construction phase services at the not to exceed sum of $195,000.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing waiving the fee required by application to Wildwood Crest School District to host a graduation ceremony at Centennial Park on June 16th, 2022, from 5 to 7 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of Joseph Franco Jr. as Class 3 member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of Angela Daniels to fill a vacancy as a member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board, commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2023.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of William Bumbernick as alternate number 1 member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board, commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2023.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of Brian Stewart as alternate number 2 member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board, commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2023.
Motion?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of Vincent Tenaglia as alternate number 3 member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board, commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2022.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the appointment of Bradley Vodges as alternate number 4 member of the Wildwood Crest Planning Board, commencing immediately and expiring December 31st, 2022.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer Work Order for NJDEP CAFRA individual permit application for beachfront improvements, sand backpassing, and beach and dune maintenance activities at the not-to-exceed sum of $99,000.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the municipal engineer to make pre-application to the Cape May County Open Space for funding the regional bike path system.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing amendment to resolution number 21-131 for Borough Engineer Work Order for Old Library Improvements costs to increase the amount at the not-to-exceed sum of $50,000.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing waiving the fee required by application to Wildwood Catholic Academy to host a prom procession at Centennial Park on April 30th, 2022, from 6 to 8 p.m.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of lease agreement with FP Finance for postage machine state contract number T-0200, 41263.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
That stumbled me a little bit. Next is authorizing an EUS contract with Robindale Media for marketing plan specialist at the not-to-exceed sum of $19,500 for calendar year 2022.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of professional services contract with James Rutala Associates, LLC, for planning consultant services to research and apply for grant funding for securing grants for fast electric vehicle chargers at the not-to-exceed sum of $5,000.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to pay the prescribed flat rate per hour to law enforcement pursuant to the 2022 Distracted Driving Crackdown Grant.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing award of contract for NJDCA Small Cities Program Beach Street End Public Access Improvements, Phase 1B.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing amended planning board proposal for solicitor Robert Belasco for calendar year 2022.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Abstain.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Next is authorizing Borough Engineer Work Order for fiscal year 2022 NJDOT Municipal Aid Reconstruction of Syracuse Avenue at the not-to-exceed sum of $265,000.
Motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Lastly is authorizing award of professional services contract to the Lomax Group for specialized engineering services in conjunction with a proposal for jurisdictional determination at the not-to-exceed sum of $7,750.
Motion?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Can I get a motion that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid?
Motion? Sorry.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that all bills properly authorized as submitted be paid. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, chief of police, supervisor of recreation department, construction officer, EMS, and Wildwood Crest volunteer fire department, month ending February 28th, 2022, be accepted and presented.
Second it?
It's been moved and seconded that all reports received from the court administrator, chief financial officer, tax collector, chief of police, supervisor for the recreation department, construction official, emergency services coordinator for the EMS, and the Wildwood Crest Volunteer Fire Company chief for the month ending February 28th, 2022 be accepted as presented. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes.
Motion that all minutes from the regular scheduled commission meetings dated February 16th and March 9th, 2022 be approved and presented, as presented, excuse me.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded that all minutes from the regularly scheduled commission meetings dated February 16th and March 9th, 2022 be approved as presented. Roll call. Mr. Schiff.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera.
Yes. Okay, brings us to Constance, the administrator's report.
Sir, good evening. My administrator's report for this evening, I did take our COVID report off of the agenda. It's really nothing new going on to report there with the county. As far as our ongoing and upcoming projects, our beach end bump outs, also known as our beach walkways or entrances to the beaches. I attended the Cape May County Commissioners' public hearing on March 8th to answer any questions they might have on our current pending application for $2.5 million to the Open Spaces Board. There were no questions at that time, and this began the 45-day wait period before the county commissioners will be able to vote on that application and the funding thereof. We do expect that to happen in late April, so we look like we're in good shape there, and I will report back as soon as that hearing is over. Unfortunately, we just received word that we were not successful in obtaining the second New Jersey DCA Small Cities grant that we applied for this same project for $400,000. We did receive the first one we applied for in that amount, as well as a $50,000 DCA recreation grant that will go towards this project. Total grant awards for this project alone are $2.9 million. So we should be well funded to complete all of those improvements. Pacific Avenue, the concrete and drainage work is expected to proceed until May 13th from Rambler to St. Louis. The second phase of the project will take place in the fall of 2022 with a scheduled completion prior to Labor Day in 2023. Pertinent information regarding the county's project we will be posting as we receive it from the county. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to forward them or comments to Bob Church, the county engineer, on your behalf. Just please either give me a call or stop in my office anytime. Scoop Taylor, the shelter has arrived and the installation is very near completion. We did have some minor housekeeping on this project, but we should be able to close out this 2020 Small Cities ADA grant and that funding shortly. There was an issue with some damaged panels that had to be replaced. Higbee Field, our contractor has a few final items to complete on the punch list, and we should wrap up the final phase of this project. Public Works is making all the necessary repairs and maintenance to the irrigation system and putting final touches on the fields to have them ready for opening day in April, and the project looks great. The Hereford Inlet to Cape May Inlet Beach and Dune construction. The DEP is once again sticking to their original date for construction of fall of 2023. There are two municipalities that have still not signed their state aid agreement. Once that's done, then we'll be in the phase of getting all of the easements completed. New Jersey Avenue, there's nothing new to report at this time as this project's been delayed due to the Pacific Avenue project. We do expect to start ramping up again in the near future and having some stakeholder meetings. Sunset Lake, the state channel dredging, just recently heard from NJDOT back on that. They do look like they're going to start ramping up for that project. I've emailed our contact at NJDOT, and Commissioner Franco and I continue to meet with local, state, and federal legislators to solicit their help and support on this project. And we'll keep you posted on any new updates. CAFRA applications. In an ongoing effort to remain compliant with the state's coastal management rules, the borough has been working on 2 separate CAFRA permits. The first permit was submitted and seeks to permit beach patrol storage adjacent to the beach patrol headquarters, while the second is being worked on and will permit the following 5 items. Our dune and beach maintenance activity permit, which we need to do beach raking and ongoing activities. Our bike path improvements north of Rambler, where we'll be putting in some amenities. Widening of the pedestrian access through the dunes north of Rambler. Old library site improvements, including expanding parking in that area. And water main looping, and that will occur south of Rambler. So we've also authorized Pete Lomax tonight to obtain a jurisdictional determination on the Beach Patrol building as we prepare to renovate that building. Old library renovations are well on their way. The contractor has made steady progress on the interior. Walls are up. The installation is in. Drywall is now being installed, and plumbing electrical work is ongoing. Delays in obtaining some materials has been an issue, but we do expect that we should be on completion, on scheduled completion for this project. That is all I have.
Okay, governing body, any questions for our administrator?
Nice work. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. No, I'm fine.
Public, any questions for our administrator? Anybody on the conference line have any questions for our administrator on her report? Hearing none, we're going to move on to Mr. de Blasio's report, engineer's report.
Okay, thank you. Connie covered most of the items that was in my report. So I just have a couple of things just to add. The Beach Avenue, Ocean Avenue, and Washington Avenue is scheduled for final surface course paving next week, weather permitting. That will allow us to wrap up those projects and have you cleaned up for the summertime. The Beach Street and Public Access Improvements Phase 1B project that was awarded tonight, we intend to move into contracts and pre-construction meeting as soon as possible. I spoke to the contractor today. He could possibly be on site within the next couple of weeks to start the project, and we're hoping to get him in and out as quickly as possible, knowing that he is going to be working traditionally past Memorial Day, which has kind of been a cutoff for us. But we're going to try to minimize how much he goes into the summer and get those improvements in place so that the public can enjoy it for as much as possible this summer. Lastly, there were 3 items that were approved for us tonight: reconstruction of Syracuse Avenue, Beach Patrol headquarters renovations, and as Connie had mentioned, there's another CAFRA permit we're going in for what I would call a cornucopia of improvements. We're going to start working on those right away. Our intention, at least with Syracuse Avenue, which we know definitively because that's a non-permit required project, our intention is to get that out to bid this summer to start construction in the fall with completion in the spring of 2023. And hopefully the other 2 projects will move smoothly as well. That is my report.
Okay, governing body, questions for Mark de Blasio?
No, sir. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks,
Schiff?
Mark.
Public,
Thank you.
any questions of our engineer? Yes, sir.
Dave McCoy, Daily 107. Can you give me the average cost per street for bump outs? I know costs are going up, but.
So the original, I'm glad I looked at the numbers today. The original bid when we did Phase 1, so Phase 1 was completed, Phase 1B was awarded tonight. Phase 1, I believe, was about $175,000 per end. What was awarded tonight is about $200,000 per street end.
Thank you. This is a little unrelated, beach boxes. Do we add more this year?
Yes.
And I asked this question last year. How many is too many?
Good question.
We have a vision as to how many beach boxes we're gonna offer. Or we're just gonna keep adding until we stop selling.
Okay. Brian Kneff, can you, what, we have what? How many doors? 350, is it?
No, we're actually more than that. We're close to we're close to 400.
400, okay.
So I think for this year, we added, I think it was 30 extra boxes, which means 60 extra doors.
Okay.
So 60 extra rentals.
Right.
And just to comment on the question, it has been discussed over the last year or two that at some point, yes, where, you know, and obviously that's a decision that the governing body would really make, or however that may be, that, you know, we don't want to oversaturate the beach with boxes. Now, that being said, you're also trying to balance it with the demand, and the demand right now is still extremely, extremely high for these boxes. We have probably 24 names on a waiting list right now, and I know that there's more out there. If we can get more boxes for the summer, which I don't believe we can. But again, that's a decision that, yeah, I mean, but it has been discussed, you know, how many is too many and how many is just enough.
So 400 doors, roughly 200 boxes, because there's 2 per box.
Roughly, yeah, it's a little less than that, but yeah, that's about the number, yes.
Okay, and if I recall, we have I saw an internal report, we have a waiting list of 25 to 30 people roughly.
Somewhere in that range, yes.
Okay, and they're hoping for this year, which is not gonna happen, so I guess the really question is do we wanna accommodate any more on the waiting list or not?
Yeah, and what I would say is, just based on the popularity of it, I mean, the retention rate is probably up over 90%, or close to that number in terms of the amount of people renewing each year. So obviously, it's a popular program and it's been well received because of the amount of people. I would say we were maybe 20 to 25 people total, 30 at most that did not renew out of over 300.
Right.
So, you know, and then we're trying as much as possible to accommodate, you know, the people that have not gotten boxes with a nod to, and there's, you know, we're trying as best as possible to accommodate Wildwood Crest residents, taxpayers, and homeowners first over others. Now, what I will say is that probably 90% of the boxes are rented by those people. There are some people from offshore or from even Wildwood that rent, even Cape May, that rent some of our boxes. But going forward here, we've been trying to accommodate the Wildwood Crest people above all others first. So
Okay.
that's kind of where we stand with it.
Well, I mean, if we got a waiting list of 30, and I'm assuming the bulk of them are residents,
They're all residents, yes.
why we're renting to non-residents in the base case, because I'm sure it's very popular, but why we're renting to non-residents in the base case, I can't understand. Secondly, it still begs the question, are we just gonna keep throwing 50 boxes out there every year,
Right,
or not? I mean, what, you know, commissioners, what is the grand plan?
right.
Okay, do you limit the number for streets? Because in theory, you could have 30 boxes on St. Paul,
Right.
if every house on St. Paul wanted one. So I'm not expecting an answer tonight,
Right.
but as you can tell, I have a concern about too many.
And that's a good question, and that's a good point. I think, so we have, I think we said we have we have 40 street ends that have potential to put boxes on. That's an average of 5 boxes per street end. So really, if you know, so I guess if you're looking at that standpoint, I know some of the streets may have more based on demand, some may have less. I guess the question really is, you know, what is too much? So I think what we should do, to your point, is we should, you know, take a look at it, do it over the summer, come back after the summer. I know that the price of these boxes continues to go up, as manufactured by the Cooperative program. So I'll throw out, I mean, I think, you know, 5 is real close. I would say probably not more. I'm not an odd man number. I can even balance things out. I'd say probably at least, you know, at the most 6 per street end. You know, that's my personal thought, but accommodate this, and I think at the end of the day, if the demand's that high, I think at some point we probably need the price probably needs to go up, because if it's, people are selling out what, $4.50 a box?
$4.50.
$4.50, and they're sold, I think, within less than 5 minutes, right? Or when they're online.
For the most part, yes.
Yeah. So, So governing body and everyone, if you can take a look this summer and take a look at the beach and give your thoughts, but we just know we have roughly 200 boxes out there and try to find a magic number as to what that number should be.
Can I say something about that?
Sure.
Basically, when the rec department changed the configuration, they went from north to south and moved it to east to west. It made it much easier for everybody to, I was one of the people to navigate. I don't find it overcrowded at this point. There's a lot of boxes there, but it's a great revenue source. And I gotta tell you, the people that are using these are happy that they're there, and they really appreciate it. So,
No doubt.
I mean, it's,
No doubt.
it is
Again,
unbelievable.
it's just basically 6 times the street is 240 boxes.
No, I get your point too, and also, we may have to be careful, and one thing that we may have to consider is that when we do the dune system, how's that going to impact these boxes? Because it's gonna squash it a little bit tighter. So, I think we really have to wait and see a tad to see where we are, but I like the revenue that's drawn from those.
Ryan, do you want to say something?
The one thing I would say is we did, just to Commissioner Schiff's point, we also, when we were first doing these, we had the boxes on every street. Now they're grouped together. So if I took a street, if you can picture it, so you have Heather and Crocus are together, the boxes are back to back between those 2 streets. So instead of having boxes at 42 street ends, we have boxes in 24 clusters. They're back to back on the beach, and that was, and as you mentioned as well, by changing the configuration, we also opened up better sight lines to the beach. That was one of the complaints, is that people complained when they looked from the bike path, all they saw were beach boxes. That's why we made them perpendicular to the ocean as opposed to parallel. And we clustered them together to now create just 24 spaces where there are boxes instead of, or 21 instead of 42. So those are some of the things that we tried to do to reduce what might be perceived as clutter on the beach with the boxes.
And I'd like to say one more thing, the rec department does a nice job. I see them down there with many issues, and you do a good job. Thank you.
Forward thinking. All right.
I would just like to add that, curious on the dunes, how it does factor that in.
Well,
And obviously, we don't know yet because of,
we
the
do
delays.
have an alignment already. We do have those plans, they are posted on our website. I'm gonna give you an average, it's about 75 feet off of the bulkhead where that dune's gonna be, and it's really wide, the dune itself, to get up and over it with the slope. So, most people are gonna want the beach boxes, you know, as close to over the dune as possible. Like when you go over it, they're not gonna wanna carry their chairs over the dune, they're gonna wanna pick them up after they get over the dune. Would be my guess, obviously, because people are, you know, they're not gonna wanna carry heavy objects, right? So, I would say that, yeah, as what Commissioner Schiff said is very true, you're gonna be squeezing them in a little bit more than you were before once that dune goes in. So there's gonna be more of a visual impact to the size of the beach, from the berm to the ocean by having those boxes there. So we'll have to revisit it, that's for sure.
to wait and
We
see.
knew that, yes, we knew that when we first.
Of course, the demand for these boxes is going to be through the roof, I gotta carry stuff over the 16-foot. Which
Could
comes
be-
back
could be
to,
true.
how many?
Right. All right,
Don't know
so
yet.
we're gonna, everyone take a look this summer, and we'll readdress it after the summer. Okay, so let me finish up the engineer's report. Anybody have any questions for engineer? One last time. Anybody on the conference line have any questions of our engineer? Hearing none, we're gonna move on to correspondence, which there is none. We'll open up for our first round of public comments. Anybody have any general public comments they'd like to ask? Or make?
I hate to be that guy, but David Williams, 8107 New Jersey, ordinance 1379. That's the fireworks. And I was down on the beach a couple 4th of Julys at the corner at the end of St. Paul, and one of the residents at the hotel there had a generous and spectacular fireworks show. And I understand that, but I'm reading the ordinance, and the way I read it, my grandkids and their sparklers are prohibited. Handheld, blah, 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 blah. Are we really, we're talking about drop pops, snappers, are we really chasing that type of issue? Is it that big a concern?
Okay, Commissioner.
Chief, would you like to address that for us? Before you though, Ron, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, the concern that was brought up to me in the request for the ordinance was the fact that someone was in the public park setting off fireworks, and the police couldn't do a thing about it. So there was a group of fireworks, category of fireworks that was made legal by the state of New Jersey. They're the smaller ones, some of which are the ones you've just referenced, that are available readily in Walmart, and you see it, Lowe's. I've seen them in the supermarkets. Those are the ones that the ordinance is designed to prevent from being utilized in a public park where there's other people around. They generate a lot of smoke. You're free to set off your legal fireworks on your property, on your front lawn, in your backyard. I would think commissioners would encourage that celebration of 4th of July or other such occasions. That's fine. Nobody's stopping you from doing that. This ordinance only prohibits in public spaces where other people are present, which may be an annoyance to them or a safety factor. So it's narrowly tailored. I don't know if the chief wants to add anything to that.
That's exactly right. We had a few instances where people were setting off fireworks within our borough public parks, which was causing problems with those that weren't interested in dealing with the fireworks at that time. And I think the fire chief can attest to the fact that every year they're responding to fires in the dunes from people setting off fireworks on the beach. So yes, it is a problem and this will address that problem, or it will help us address the problem.
So I think the answer, Mr. McWilliams, is this ordinance does prohibit sparklers, right? I just wanted to confirm.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
All right, anybody else? Any other public comments? Everybody on the conference line have any public comments? Hearing none, we're going to move on to first item of new business. Hot dog cart vending. The borough received a request to consider potential of having a hot dog cart in the vicinity of the Beach Patrol building and the Sunrise Park area. Listed it here on the agenda for discussion to see if there's any interest of the governing body to allow for that to happen. I'd like to, if Madam Clerk or Solicitor Galzinas, you can kind of bullet point, I guess, what the borough, if there was interest, what the borough would need to do to allow that. As far as I know, I think years ago there might have been hot dog cart vending here.
There
and know
was.
there
I don't think
another-
one's been issued since it was 2014.
2013.
2013.
So that the commissioners would have to decide locations, a rotating schedule, whether they would be in metered parking spaces or on the sidewalk if they're suitable locations. That would have to be thought through and something would have to be put into place.
So the borough could, in essence, go out to bid on a specific location?
You could, in fact, that's the way it's done in North Wildwood. They have a half a dozen or so metered parking spaces. And I think there's an amount, I believe it's $950 per space and they're bid on. And then that space would be allocated to a specific
So that-
vendor.
Let's assume that we don't want to put it in a parking space, but say in a high traffic area such as the Beach Patrol building, perhaps at the street end or in the park area or close to the bike shop or maybe the splash park and playground area and be able to rotate in that area. Is that possible or not possible?
It's possible, it's possible. Someone would have to determine what the suitable location is.
For a vending
Where-
cart?
yeah, and where it wouldn't interfere with pedestrian traffic or other businesses or whatever conditions the commissioners would like to place on it.
There's first preference goes to veterans and fire department staff?
They can obtain their vending licenses from the county,
County clerk,
County clerk.
right.
and we we're required to honor that.
Okay, governing body, any comments, suggestions? Any interest?
I'd like to discuss it, but
Sure.
yeah, I think we should just enter it one more time, take a look at it, have some feelings, and see if it's worthy of it.
And I believe it can't be within 200 feet of other restaurants, so you really do need like a schematic for the borough to see where you could possibly have those.
Yeah,
And keep in mind Green Acres too. In the parks, you really can't have it there. You have to seek permission from them.
to put it,
Any lease.
Approved in a Green Acres, any park funded, any park that's funded by Green Acres, you would have to get their lease approved through Green Acres before you were able to do it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Not
Go ahead,
insurmountable, it just has to be done.
Is
Right.
there, if it is that area and it impinges, is there a specified distance that maybe this person or whoever?
Just can't be within the block and lot that parcel is on our Rossi. So our resource inventory for our open space and our funded parkland, anything that's on that Rossi would have to go through the Green Acres, NJDEP Green Acres, for permission for us to lease a portion of that property out or have a lease on it. It's not insurmountable, it's just paperwork and it's something they have to do in advance of, that's all.
Thank you.
I'd like to look at the 2014, because you said that was the last time we issued one,
Right.
2013,
2013?
2013?
Yeah.
I'd like to look at
They're
that.
all out of
That was,
business. Right.
what, the hot dog cart vendors are all out of business?
The ones that were on the list were
That's when
all.
healthy initiatives came into play. All right, yeah, so we'll take a look at it. I know if that hub is a popular hub and there's no food or beverage in that area. So if it were gonna be an area, I think someone mentioned about within a area that's already serving food. Yeah, if it's closer to the beach, should you say 200 feet?
200 feet.
Yeah, okay, so wouldn't be able to be out on the sidewalk, in my opinion, in that area. It'd have to be up closer to the ocean front and the bike shop and in the park area. But I know there's a lot of people that stop there and rest on their bikes and grab something to eat and drink or whatever, so. I'm not opposed to it, but I'll wait for the,
There's work.
I remember the last vendor that was on Rambler, that was there, Andy Ridgway.
I don't
Am I right?
I don't know.
Yeah, it was him. He's not with us anymore.
sauerkraut, chili, relish, onion.
I didn't eat dinner yet.
Me neither.
Okay, so let's move that under old business. Everyone do their due diligence, and we'll discuss it. And I guess if the decision is going to happen, we need to get work going so we can get it hopefully in play by Memorial Day. Alrighty, moving on. Old business, back beach excavation. So at the last meeting, I think Mr. de Blasio indicated that if we were going to move forward with this project, a decision would need to be made hopefully at this meeting. My understanding is time is a concern. There's some permitting concerns as well. There's this, we have a start date of the Army Corps plan starting in the fall of 2023, as it sounds as of tonight. So I guess the question really is I don't believe we're in a position to move forward on this, but I just want to be clear on our direction. I think we're tabling this for this year, but we need to get the permitting application going as make it a part of our beach maintenance permit, unless we decide to piggyback with the Army Corps and the DEP permit for that dune project. Is that where we are? I just want to make sure.
my thoughts would be to delay it, yes.
Okay.
Also mine.
Okay, so we can keep it on the agenda, but it has been delayed for until further notice. So we'll get the CAFRA permit going, and then we would have the ability ourselves to do it in 2023 if need be, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right, office moves / surveillance cameras. Chief, any update on that?
I'll have my report to you before next meeting.
You got it. New Jersey lots, all borough lots, cost vision. So talking about that, we had, when it reviewed the borough parcels that are in our possession, just a hair under $3 million worth of assets. There's one in particular on Seaview Avenue and Rosemary. I think we discussed potentially that's in a residential area. Currently, Public Works is maintaining it and keeping it clean, but it may have a better use of the borough if the borough were to sell that lot, allow somebody to build a home on there and collect the tax dollars going forward. I didn't know if there's any interest in that. You want to continue to think about it, or you want to move forward on that?
I'd like to move forward. I
Yeah.
believe that would be good for our borough and create more revenue.
I would agree with Commissioner Schiff on that as well.
Okay. Solicitor Galzunas, can you overview the process of how a municipality would, is that a bid process? Open bid process, or how does that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Publicly bid?
Yeah.
Kind of like those guys that talk really fast, and raise your hand if you want to
We
do.
do it a number of ways. Auctions can be handled in different ways, and public bidding can be handled different ways with real estate. But yes, it does have to be publicly bid out.
Okay, so if the governing body's okay with it, if we could charge our administrator, our solicitor, and our clerk to
Sure.
figure out a way to
Yep.
get that process moving?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, we actually did that with Philip Baker when we took from the school, and we created 7 lots down there. At that time, I think we sold off 4 or 5 and kept 2. But it really helped everything, and I think this will be the same way. But it is interesting, it's definitely,
Disposition of public property.
and now's a good time.
We'll get the statute out, then we'll work on that for you and get you answers.
Okay. I think there's, if I recall the report, is there 1 lot or 2 lots there? One, just one?
I think it's restricted to one residential. Something like that.
Okay.
It is deed restricted.
All right. Moving on, proposed floodplain ordinance. Just remind everybody, April 2nd at 11 o'clock is the special meeting for the proposed floodplain and all bulkhead-related questions.
It's just bulkhead. ordinance.
Just bulkhead, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a bulkhead ordinance.
At Crest Pier.
At the Crest Pier, April 2nd at 11 a.m. Vision for library lease specs, we're not quite ready for that yet. I know we're still waiting for some information from the architect to go out with some potential bid specs. So Solicitor Galzunas can wrap that up and circulate that to everybody. Washington having flooding issues, that's in Mr. Rotula's hands. Flood mitigation, the same thing. Bulkhead ordinance, lock grading, that's part of the April 2nd. So we can strike that one, Madam Clerk. Referendum for anyone liquor license, that's nothing happening there. Park Boulevard Pumping Station, nothing happening on there. Okay, that brings us to our last round of public comments before we move into closed session. We'll start with anybody in the room. Last round of public comments. I see our gentleman here from Atlantic City Jitney Association, so we introduce your ordinance. Do you have any comments, questions?
Not right now. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody on the conference line have any public comments, questions, or statements? All right, we're going to move on to the last round of commissioner comments. Commissioners, any comments?
I do. At this time, I'd like to introduce something to us all, and I'd like to change a little bit some things around. I'd like to have our chiefs at every 5:30 meeting give a state of where we're at so our community can understand what we're doing and where we're heading to. So Chief Lloyd, congratulations, you're the first one.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm just gonna first touch on a few highlights from my report to Commissioner Schiff from the month of February. In the month of February, our police department handled 1,551 calls for service. 258 of those were criminal investigations. 257 of those were service calls such as alarms, medical assists, school-related activities. 327 of them were traffic-related. 133 were motor vehicle stops, with 12 summonses issued. We had 256 hours of training for our current police officers, so that's in-service training. That doesn't count for the training that officers are receiving if they're in the police academy right now. So all of our officers are doing continuing training every month, all year round. So just so everybody is aware of that, we are keeping our officers educated and ready to do their due diligence for our borough. Last month we had 7 adult arrests and 1 driving while intoxicated arrest. This is pretty standard for what we see in the month of February. It's very similar to last year's report to the commissioner. Nothing too outrageous from the month of February, but the state of New Jersey is seeing a rise in motor vehicle thefts, and that includes our county. Just recently, within the last month, we had a vehicle stolen from town, which was recovered in Atlantic City, and we recovered a stolen motor vehicle from Middle Township just last week. Do not leave your key fobs in your vehicle or close to your vehicle. If your driveway is right next to your living room and your key fob is right next to a window by your car, that might actually activate the key fob and allow somebody to enter your vehicle. But also do not leave your keys in your vehicle with your vehicle unlocked, and shut your windows, please. The police department was awarded the You Drive, You Text, You Pay Distracted Driving Crackdown grant by the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety. The enforcement campaign runs the entire month of April. Starting April 1st through the 30th, we will have extra patrols out on the street targeting distracted driving. So what that means is, please, if you need to make a phone call or you need to send a text message, do not do it while you're driving. If you need to groom while you're driving, do not do that while you're driving. Pull over and comb your hair or do whatever. Do not eat bowls of cereal while you're driving. We've seen all these things. So please just pay attention to driving when you're driving. Everything else can wait. It's not worth getting into an accident. It's certainly not worth getting a motor vehicle summons either. Our community outreach program has been pretty busy preparing for the summer season. They were heavily involved in our recruitment for our seasonal officers. They attended Wildwood High School's career fair. They spoke at Stockton University, and they also attended Rowan University's career fair. April 30th, the community outreach program is hosting a Coffee with Cops in conjunction with a drug take-back from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Firehouse. Again, that's April 30th, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you have any unused or unwanted drugs that you would like to drop off there, if you'd like to have a cup of coffee with a police officer, meet some of our officers, ask questions, we'll be there. We have hired our final Class 2 applicant, and we have 3 Class 2 recruits attending the academy in the month of, starting in the month of May. We currently have 4 Class 2 recruits in the academy that will graduate in April, so that gets us to our 7 Class 2 officers that we like to have for the summertime. Just hoping everybody makes it through the academy. But that will have us at full staffing. We're still actually working on hiring Class 1 officers. We're still accepting applications. So if anybody knows a young man or woman that's interested in starting in a law enforcement career, please have them reach out to our detectives or go online. They can go online and actually fill out an application and learn more about the program. And yeah, at our website, I apologize, wildwoodcrestpolice.org. And the police department is currently preparing for a reaccreditation process through the New Jersey State Associations of Chiefs of Police. Our on-site inspection should be in June, but that's up in the air, and we'll see when they schedule that for us. But we're working hard to get prepared for that. So that'll be all, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, governing body, any questions for Chief Lloyd?
Are you buying the coffee at Coffee for,
We're taking care of the coffee.
okay.
We
I'll
were
be
gonna
there.
actually send it over to you.
I just want to make sure, I heard you say we're going to drop off drugs and have coffee with the police.
Yes,
Pull
Think
together.
about that for a second.
unwanted and unwanted or unused prescription drugs, we'll take them, and they'll go right to the Drug Enforcement Administration. So
All right, and then, Chief, just confirm for me, to the report that you just gave, that's also in section number 8? Is part of that also in the reports that we're reading into? So there's no duplication of, I guess, the reporting,
The
right?
first part is
First part
his
is,
report.
Of
Okay.
the arrests and whatnot.
okay. All right, public, any questions for our chief of police? Anybody on the conference line have any questions for our chief of police? Hearing none, thank you, chief.
Sure.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah, Ronnie. At this time, our Chief of Fire and EMS, Chief Harwood.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here for everybody. Mr. Schiff, Mayor, good to see you. I know you've been receiving the monthly reports for the last year, but Mr. Schiff wants to come out and I think it's a good thing to explain because we get a lot of questions on what exactly calls we go on. So for the EMS, this is from January to March of this year. The EMS had a total of 93 calls. They responded to 48 transports to the hospital. We had 20 refusals, 16 recalled by dispatch, 9 public assist, whether it be with helping somebody that just came in or helping them at their house, lift assist. We did 5 mutual aid calls. We did 5 mutual aids to Wildwood, 2 to North Wildwood, and 5 to Lower Township, for a total of 93 calls since January. The EMS department currently has required to do 24 core, 24 elective each year. So in the EMS training, monthly they do 2 core credits online, which is required that we do. They do 2 GIF programs online, which is required. And in their process now, thanks to the recreation, they're redoing their certified ABCs to get in their 24 electives. So in EMS, they're continuing training. They do on training every day. And we document everything they do for training, you know, from the EpiPens now to the Narcan to everything that we're using. And EMS, if anybody knows, it's changing so fast on every case that's out there today. So I have a few hats here. So this is going to be on the EMS department. Is there any questions on that? No?
I don't see any hats.
No, I'll go
Yeah,
switch
you
it
put
around
it
in a
down
minute. Next is the Wildcrest Volunteer Fire Company. That's a 28-man department, all strictly volunteers. One only left on the whole island. North Wild, Wild, a combination, West Wild's a volunteer. Last year, we handled over 321 calls. Average response time less than 4 minutes. Since January, the fire company has responded to 45 incidents. Out of them incidents, 2 rubbish or structure fires, how I give you the chart. I have another way to break it down if you like. So since fires, they call false alarm, fires in the structure other than the building, we had 1. Incendiary overload and malfunctions, we had 1. Hazardous conditions, no fire, gas leak, natural gas leaks, which is road departments, their homes, smelling something. We had a total of 9. Electric wiring or wiring problem, 1. Power lines down, we had 1. Arcing and shorting electrical problems, we had 2, a total of 14. Breaks down into service calls, a water problem. Someone has water, we're going to replace their house, we get called or whatever, we go out and investigate. 2, assist police and other government agency. 2, defective elevators with no occupants. We get a lot of calls with elevators, nobody's in there, that falls in that category, which is 2. Cover assignment standby, 2, that's a total of 7. Good intent calls means when we arrived there, the situation had nothing to do with fire. It was just a good intent call. They thought they smelled something, see something, it falls into that category. It doesn't get a category under the NIFRS National Incident Fire Reporting System. Dispatch canceling a Route 1. Hazmat release investigation, that's when the fire department goes out to a report of a carbon monoxide alarm. And we go there, we check it with our meters. No carbon monoxide is found. That's a hazmat situation. That's how that falls in the New Jersey NIFRS code. False alarms, sprinklers due to malfunction, 1. Smoke detectors activity due to malfunction, 6. Heat detectors due to malfunction, 1. unintentional transmission alarm. 5, smoke detector activations with no fire. 16, a total of 45 incidents for the Crest Fire Department since January. An average of 17 men per turnout. Men total, 765 hours for them incidents. We have what they call incidents, cover assignments, first alarm assignments. This is municipalities, Wildwood, North Wildwood, that have a report of a working structure fire. In the island, we have a command system set up that if we have a structure fire here, they bring certain apparatus to Wildwood Crest. For us, if there's a structure fire in North Wildwood, West Wildwood, or Wildwood, we take our tower. So there was total 5 of them for the year so far. The day of the week, most of our calls are on a Saturday. 10 calls, as Mr. Schiff knows, he has a dispatch this weekend. We had 10 calls starting Friday night, all through the weekend. So our department is very busy this time of year. We're up about, last year at this time for the 3 months, we had 30 calls. We're up to 45 already this year, so calls are increasing each time. Night calls between, we also break it down for us at night calls between 11 a.m. and 7 a.m. We had a total of 5. And we break it down to dual engine response. As you know, we're in an interlocal agreement with Lower Town to cover Diamond Beach. We've had 4 responses there since the beginning of the year. The Wildwood Crest Fire Department, many of you don't know, 2021, we achieved the goal. We got an ISO rating of 3, which only 12% of the departments in the country scored that. For Wildwood Crest, that's phenomenal. We did a hell of a job, getting all this paperwork online and equipment. So I'm very proud of this company for 28 guys. That is it for the fire department. Any questions on that?
Yeah, that's a great job you guys do.
Congratulations.
I mean, that is good.
We're all going on that one, huh? Next, I also oversee the Office of Emergency Management. On the Office of Emergency Management, a lot of people don't believe it's very busy, and I'd like to thank Connie, Mark Plazo, Francine, and Trish. These people help me out tremendously. Projects that I have to register every quarter with the county. I completed our hazardous mitigation plan module online with Tetra Tech, required by the county OEM. We currently have 7 projects on hazmat mitigation plans. That's including the bulkheads, the sand dunes, the 500-year floodplain, the pumps what you're working on. These have to be entered to the county quarterly. So I talk with Mark, Connie, we see where we're at on them projects, we record it. I completed the Emmett training this week. That's called Emmett training, Emergency Management Mapping, Information and Tracking. Required this week me to go online, activate our EOC, which right now we have at the EMS building on the 2nd floor, and record 2 resource types that we need. I request 2,000 gloves, goes to the state, they email me back, say you're approved, make sure if there's an emergency, we know how to use the system. This was a training this week for them, which everybody, emergency management had to do. That is on emergency management then. Anything on that one?
You have another one?
I
Yeah,
got
he's
one
got
more.
another one.
I got
2
one more. Right here, sorry, sir. Probably got it in the bottom of this one.
For everyone who also had just put up your register ready on our website so that people can go and register. if they're,
Correct.
Housebound, if they have issues and there's an emergent situation like a hurricane, that they know where to come and find you. You don't have to reach out for assistance. They know to come looking for you. Ron just put that up on the website last month with Brian's assistance.
Yes, I'd like to thank Brian for all his web help all the
Con, you
time.
better be careful. You might be
Yeah.
standing up there next with us.
Next is the Office of Fire Prevention. I'm also the fire official for the Borough of Wildwood Crest. At part-time jobs here. For the month of January, the fire prevention handled 428 periodic inspections, their yearly inspections, 133 re-inspection, other inspection 11, for a total of 572. We sent out 193 violations, certified 379 buildings and occupants and condos. Our smoke cert, which is required anytime at R1 sells property, 22 since January. The Fire Inspection Bureau has a total of 3,250 local inspections we do a year. We have 64 life hazards in the Borough of Wildwood Crest. And they're required to be inspected by the state yearly. So we have 64 life hazards. We also do that. I'd like to thank Francine on that because she takes care of the funding on that with me when it comes in. Next is, there's one more hat I wear. It's called the Schlep Program. That's the housing inspection for the state of New Jersey.
The what program?
Schlep, it's called. It's called the State Local Cooperative Housing
I asked too.
Inspection Program. This service comes every 5 years to any multiple dwelling, 3 or more connected, every hotel, motel. As of this date, I do all the inspections for these. I have 43 inspections done. Between now and August 1st, I have 1,404 units to inspect. These are motels that have 60 units. We have some that have 113 units. As you know, Mayor, we inspect some of the properties you do, and that's an issue that comes every 5 years with housing. That is property maintenance. So the office keeps very busy up there, and I keep myself very busy. That's all I have for reports, and if there's anything else.
Governing body, any questions for Mr. Harwood?
Thank you, Chief.
You know, I'm sorry. go
No,
ahead,
thank you, Chief.
Joe. You guys do a great job, Chief of Police, and the best part about doing this each month is we're gonna have one more guest at the end of this. It's gonna be Chief Johnson about the Beach Patrol, and he'll update us at the next meeting, our 5:30 meeting in April. And then I'm sure we'll be discussing different things about the, you're concerned about making sure we get the word out for the surfing beaches. So we'll be addressing all that stuff, but thank you so much.
Ryan
both of
Harwood, I counted 5 hats.
Yeah.
You cannot go anywhere. You're here for the long term, you're here for the long haul.
you. Does a great job. Last thing I just want to say is Francine and your group is, thank you for your work on the budget. And I just see the way you work upstairs. Your head is down. I don't even want to look at you because I'm afraid you're going to stop. But that was excellent work. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep, I agree on that. Thank you, Francine.
And she gives me money.
Also wanted to thank Joe Bond and Public Works for the room in here. They banged that out fairly quick. Only thing that you were missing was the cell phone number on Joe's plaque right here, so anytime, that was the only thing.
Trust me, everybody has it already.
So, but, you know, but thank you, no, thank you. And I'm Francine as well for putting up with me and my 500 questions since January, so thank you.
Got a great team up there. We have such a great team. All of us that work here. I'm impressed. Coming from the school, moving over to here, you guys are good. You make us look good.
All right, I just want to follow up on a couple things. One is just to remind everyone, we are officially, I was reminded that I let the cat out of the bag at the last meeting, that Wildwood Crest won the New Jersey Healthy Town again for the 2nd year in a row. I was premature in my remarks. Thank goodness I didn't get ourselves into trouble, but it is official. We've received the banner and the plaque. The Mayor's Wellness Walk will be on May 14th at 8:30 in the morning. If anyone wants to join for a 10-mile run, 7-minute pace, followed by a nice little swim, feel free to come on out.
Ronnie, you better have a rig out there.
I also want to thank Francine and her staff and all the department heads and the commissioners for their work on the budget. The increase of I want to make sure everyone understands, it is not a penny, it is 0.6 of a penny. For example, if your house is valued at $500,000 in your property, it's roughly a $35 a year increase. Jump it up to 600,000, it's a little more than that, like $37 annual increase over 2021 in what you're going to pay in taxes. What we said earlier tonight, Wildwood Crest has made an investment in staff. We've reviewed market studies. We have a great staff, to my fellow commissioners' points, to keep our staff here. I own, with my wife, private companies. I can tell you that it is not easy keeping staff in these times. So if we want to have the services and you want to have the quality of life that we have here in Wildwood Crest, we need to do what we need to do. We're investing in our staff. We're investing in our infrastructure. We're investing in our parks and our public buildings. And to the point of Mr. Garcia, who left the room, and Francine's budget, we're doing great. Surplus is strong. Wildwood Crest is in great financial position. And that's thanks to all the residents out there that understand the mission of balancing infrastructure and projects, investing in the staff, and at the end of the day, our 98.6% tax collection rate is awesome. All the residents deserve just as much credit as all the staff and the governing body. So with that being said, I want to thank everyone, and I appreciate everyone's support and help. It's going to be a great 2022. Hearing that, I will entertain a motion to take a 3-minute recess before we move into closed session and take a
Let me just read the resolution real
Yes,
fast,
ma'am.
and then we'll do that. So it's authorizing
good.
executive
Thank you.
closed session in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, specifically NJSA 10:4-12B, with regard to the Policies and Procedures Manual. Can I get a motion?
Motion?
Will second?
It's been moved and seconded that the foregoing resolution be adopted. Roll call, Mr. Schiff?
Yes.
Mr. Franco?
Yes.
Mr. Cabrera?
Yes.
Okay, we'll take 3 minutes.
All right, if you can't see the clock, it's 6:45, 6:48, we'll come back in the